don't be fearful of a recession is another thing. There are opportunities, or there will be opportunities. Um, I guess in this recession, who is going to get hurt the most?
Uh, well, who benefited from the last 2 years of funny juice? It was the very, very rich
Mhm.
and the very, very poor immigrants. Those are the two. So the middle class is going to ultimately benefit the most from this. There'll
Yeah.
be some people who are, exposed as swimming naked when the tide goes out. People who are over levered up to their eyeballs in debt will experience great margin calls. But I mean, don't weep for them. One thing we have to worry about is a banking crisis. Some banks, I think, are going to fail, but as long as the big ones don't get into trouble, we'll be fine. I mean, we have they're already underwater in their held to maturity account, and that was why we had some bank failures in 23, Silicon Valley Bank,
Mhm.
because they were underwater from the interest rate hikes. The Fed came in
Yeah.
and did the bank term funding program to kind of, provide liquidity to the banking system for people and stop the deposit run. That worked better than I thought. So that was a good job on the Fed's part to prevent bank runs. But what the Fed's not going to do is bail out banks for bad credit. So we've gone from, bond duration losses on banks' balance sheets to the credit part of the cycle. And we already know there's a commercial real estate problem. The Fed put out a report in November, the New York Fed, saying that banks are extending and pretending. So the Fed is aware of what the banks are doing. Now, Trump's inheriting an economy where banks have been lying. And so there will be some credit issues. Just as long as they don't go systemic, we're fine. Now, if it goes systemic, Katie barred the door.
Oh, yeah. Okay, another topic I wanna bring up with you just because it just remind me, when you think about the state of the economy and the jobs data last year with all of those revisions, it makes me wonder, like, 1, um, how can you trust the data? But 2, like, how is the economy really?
It's not good. I mean, if you look at a host of other indicators, not official government statistics, there's a lot of indicators to suggest we have a weak economy right now. And PMI, capacity utilization, household survey. The disparity between the household survey and the establishment survey has never been bigger. So you could make the case that the middle class has experienced a recession, but the overall economy, due to the unprecedented government spending, kind of kept it afloat from a headline standpoint. And there's been a lot of controversy about the establishment survey. Zero Hedge and others started calling this out at the beginning of 24. And that's been proven recently by the disparity between the QCW and the non-farm payroll, a 7 Sigma event. So you could say, and I've said publicly, it's either bureaucratic incompetence or fraud or a combination of the two.
In our past conversations, Ed, our past conversation before this one, we did talk a lot about the debt problem, and I'm looking at the US national debt clock, which actually has a Doge clock on it now, which is pretty neat, for folks who have not seen that, but looks like the Doge clock is at 61 billion. Um, but just looking at the US national debt, for example, and I'm not even talking about the off balance sheet, but it's 36.4 trillion and ticking higher. The last time you and I spoke, it was I think 34 trillion, around that area. Do you think, like, well, 1, when do you think this will be a problem? But 2, do you think we'll be able to start to really address it, or at least have that conversation and make some sort of changes for the future?
Well, so a couple things. If Doge, early days on Doge, I'm quite happy with what I'm seeing. I was happy to hear them talk about $2 trillion. I didn't quite understand how they were going to do it. I didn't realize they get the kind of access they have and the numbers that they're already saving. Elon has indicated he thinks he could save $1 trillion by the end of 2026. That would be great. If we can reduce the deficit spending, the bond markets will start to. If we can show proof of concept, the bond markets will start to anticipate that. And the U.S. is much better off than other countries.
That's true. Yeah.
Believe it or not. So
the cleanest dirty shirt in the laundry pile.
Correct. So, if we can just, the markets are always second derivative focused. So when people look at the absolute debt, 120% of GDP or 123 or whatever it is now, and they freak out. All we have to do and show the markets is that growth is going to plateau or slow or even go decline. And if we can show proof of concept, the bond markets will anticipate that, and interest rates will come down on the long end, which will affect mortgage rates, and then it'll be easier to invest. But prices and homes are going to come down first, then interest rates, then the economy will pick up. People will start purchasing homes and buying homes once prices come down. Right now, if you talk to anybody who's tied to a real estate business that relies on transaction volume, they're not doing well. They're just not doing well. There's no activity.
Yeah. I noticed that when I do my run in the morning, I'm noticing I see more for sale signs, but they've been for sale for a while. So
days on market is quite high. That's an early sign.
And the prices are really high too. I'm like, these are, they're very high. Okay, so as we wrap up here, I'm going to ask you 2 questions. Okay, let's start with the first one. What is something that is keeping you up at night these days?
So we've always talked about the sovereign debt crisis, and and I've been saying for years, the release valve is currency. Mm-hmm. And what we saw with the Bank of Japan is a problem. The Fed, every cycle, rate hiking cycle, the Fed breaks something. They've broken the Bank of Japan, and there's been moves behind the scenes to stabilize that and reduce the volatility of the Japanese yen versus the dollar. And Japan is faced with a Hobbesian choice. They can either raise interest rates in the face of the Fed lowering interest rates to stabilize their currency, but blow up the yen carry trade that's been, in effect for a long, long time. Or they can, save the yen carry trade, because the international world wants them to, and destroy their currency and have a, inflation or hyperinflation. So we're at this nexus of, we had central bank coordination since the Great Financial Crisis. The U.S. Fed, the ECB, and the Bank of Japan. Those are the 3 major ones. And with the ECB being the funder of the yen carry trade because they had 0 interest rates for decades. We're at the point now where one of the central banks has to buy out potentially because of it's save the global financial system or save themselves. So that keeps me up at night.